actually, some of them have a viewing room, right? Which is a room separate from the room where the funeral takes place for Kohanes to watch the cemetery without being in the same room as the coffin. But for everyone else, right, we are viewed to be impure after leaving, so you do the hand washing. Now, the idea is, and a year, but I'm going to put 11 months. The idea is that one of the reasons that we're saying Kaddish for the deceased, and that we're mourning the deceased for this entire year, is that the judgment period is 1 year. And I know that Rabbi just went through all the different views of what happens after we die. Okay? But with the view that there is some kind of reward and punishment, right? That some go to Olam Haba, the world to come, and some do not. Okay? And that was the predominant rabbinic view at the time of the Talmud. Was that there was some kind of Olam Haba. Did Rabbi teach you those words? Right? Or world to come? Right? And that those who were righteous were rewarded with the world to come. Right? When the Messiah comes, the righteous will, reincarnate, right? So that judgment took a year, or could take up to a year. Okay? So why do we say Kaddish for 11 months and not for a year?
Because you have the month. You have a month here.
No, it includes that. It includes that. So why 11 months, not a year? Because God forbid that the person for whom I'm mourning, that it would take the full 12 months for that judgment to take place. Right? That the person I'm mourning could not be so evil that it would take the full 12 months for that judgment to take place. So we say Kaddish and have the mourning for 11 months, not for the full 12 months. Well, more optimism, right? So that's where you see the 11 months. The gravestone is covered or not put up for that first 11 months as well. So we have an unveiling of the gravestone after the 11 months.
Is that just in Reform 11 months or all of them?
I don't know that it's universal, because it is a year.
Yeah.
Is
I thought it was
yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
Because we always did a gravestone on the year anniversary.
Ask your family if they ever heard the 11 months. Let me know. Okay? Yeah.
When did the 12-month mourning period come into existence?
I don't know.
It's part of the Talmud.
Yeah, I mean it's in, but I don't know exactly.
What is the rationale for having the child do the Kaddish for 12 months, but not the other way around?
I think it's that and the other thing that I don't know, and I can find out for you all, is if there's no child who is next in line. And like I said, you'll see all of these in practice who can do the year. And also in Reform practice, okay? Now this is a tradition, okay? I would say that very few of our families have a full 7 days of Shiva. And for a lot of our families, they'll do Shiva, like they'll have, the part of this is the minyan. Okay, now minyan isn't only with mourning. Minyan is that you need traditionally 10 Jewish men above the age of 13 to do certain parts of the service, right? Really the parts of the service that require a response, Baruch Hu, the Kaddish, Torah reading, you need at least a full minyan to say those prayers.
For the Shiva?
Well, for any service. Okay? So if you show up at an Orthodox synagogue and there are only 7 Jewish men above the age of 13, they're not going to say Baruch Hu, they're not going to read Torah if it's a Torah morning, and they're not going to say Kaddish. Okay? So part of the purpose of people coming to visit the home is not just bringing food, not just providing condolence, right? Providing condolences, but that there should be 10 traditionally Jewish men, right? We would now say 10 Jewish people because we're egalitarian in our minyan counting. But the idea is that these people shouldn't have to leave their home to go to the synagogue to say Kaddish. That the community should come to them so that they can say Kaddish in their home. So if you go to a Jewish home for what we call a Shiva minyan, right? The idea is that we're bringing the service to them. Because you can't, traditionally, you can't say the Kaddish by yourself. Which again is kind of a beautiful thing that our tradition gives us, right? That in this time of mourning, yes, you have to say this prayer 3 times a day for a year, but you can't be alone when you say it. You have to be part of a community. So for our families, most will just do 1 service a day, right? They're not going to do the morning, afternoon, and evening. And they'll usually do it for 3 days. Some choose not to do it. And again, we walk through with the families why we have these traditions, what the options are, and it really is up to the family. Yeah?
Is there a common replacement or something to say when you are by yourself? If you're not
Now,
supposed to say the Kaddish?
again, right, if you come to me and you say, can I say Kaddish by myself, right, I would say, here's why the tradition teaches us that we need a minyan. At the same time, if you want to say Kaddish on your own, right, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
I missed where, so the Shiva, it's supposed to be a minyan.
Because the point of Shiva
is to be in the
is that the point of Shiva is that you're at home and you're not worrying about all of the things that you normally worry about. You're mourning. Okay? One of the things that a mourner is required to do is say this prayer 3 times a day. Okay? So one of the things that the community does is bring the minyan, bring that community to the mourner's home so that the full service can be done in the home and they don't have to come to the synagogue.
So you can't, it's not, because I had memories of my father saying, after my grandfather, his father passed, and the mourner's Kaddish every morning.
Traditionally, now, so for
But
7
it's
days,
for 7
for
days.
7 days we bring it to the home.
So,
Now, Shiva pauses for Shabbat, okay? They're counted as the 7 days, but you leave your home, you go to the synagogue for Shabbat, okay? Shiva also stops when there is a Yom Tov. So let's say someone dies 2 days before Rosh Hashanah, you sit Shiva for those 2 days, it's Rosh Hashanah, and then you're done. You still have Shloshim, right, the 30 days in the year, but festivals stop Shiva. Shabbat doesn't pause because it's still counted as the 7 days, but Shabbat, yeah, you're with me? Okay. Now, when I look at this, and again, I gave you the traditional understanding, okay? Oh, so then Shiva ends, and then that's why, really, right here, we don't have a daily minyan, right? We don't have a service every day. For conservative synagogues that do, not all do, but for conservative synagogues that do, really the main reason that they keep it going and the main reason they're able to have a minyan every day is because of people who are saying Kaddish. Traditionally, in Judaism, we have 3 services every day, not just if you're mourning, right? There are 3 services every day. It replaces the sacrifice, right? And we have 3 prayer services every day, which you can do by yourself. But when you do it by yourself, you don't say Baruch Hu, you don't read Torah, and you don't say Kaddish. Okay? The Jewish service can be done by oneself. So for communities that have the daily minyan, and I think in Tampa, you can do shacharit every day. Where do they have it? I think Rhoda still has it. They have a daily minyan. And then Chabad does Mincha Ma'ariv, the afternoon and evening service. They do it at, well, one of the Chabads does it at Weinberg Village. And I think the other, anyway. So there are the 3, and Mincha Ma'ariv, the afternoon and evening service, are usually done together to make it a little bit easier. And I'm diverting. Okay. So what this process gives us, and I'm actually going to move the art site to here. I'm going to get rid of Minyan. So ultimately, when I look at what does this mean to us as Reformed Jews today, right? Who, you know, can you as a Reformed Jew say Kaddish 3 times a day, every day for a year? Sure. Okay? But most don't choose to. When I teach this, I say, look at what, and then look at what our tradition gives us. That when someone passes away, right, we tear our clothes, whatever we do, we admit that we're no longer the same as what we were. Okay? Before the burial, there's this understanding that we're in like this time of frenzy, right? Tradition, you're not supposed to call someone during this period to tell them how sorry you are for their loss, right? It's understanding that it's not real yet, that it's, you know, it's getting what needs to be done. Then, after the burial, something changes. After the burial, we're really able to mourn for the first time, because you see the body go into the ground, right? You help with the mitzvah of burying the dead, right? At a traditional Jewish funeral, you'll see at the end of the ceremony, everyone places a shovel of dirt into the ground, not with the shovel right side up. This is kind of an interesting tradition. You turn the shovel upside down and put an upside down shovel full of dirt into the grave, or if you were doing the whole thing, you would do the whole thing with an upside down shovel, because even though it's a mitzvah to bury the dead, it's not a mitzvah that we hurry to do. It's not a mitzvah that we're happy about doing. So by having the shovel upside down, you show the reluctance to perform that commandment. Okay? After the burial, it becomes real, and for 7 days, right, we really shut ourselves off from the outside world. For the next 23 days or for 30 days, we realize that there are certain things that we're not capable of doing. And then most of those who are mourning are able to go back to their normal life. But for some, we keep that going for a year, at which point our tradition expects us to go back to normal, realizing that on the anniversary every year, that pain comes back in a unique way. Okay? Now, forget about the numbers. What this says to me when we're dealing with mourning is, when someone we love passes away, we're not the same as what we were. It takes time for us to get back into our normal lives. And it might be different for all of us. This was what our tradition understood as the most common way to do it, right? But what I tell people is everyone's going to recover differently, right? I understand that some people have to get back to work. That's who they are. That's the way that they cope. Understanding that our tradition tells us not to, right? I'm not going to tell someone that they can't. But I think that we should realize why the tradition wanted us